Reggie here, and I want to welcome you to another one of my live streams. This is Comics Today, a show that we do on Wednesday to celebrate the best day of the week, that being New Comic Book Day. And as you guys know, I don't really have an LCS anymore, but I'm still reading comics, and I'm actually waiting for my box to arrive from my comic shop. Hopefully, fingers crossed, it arrives any day now. But if this is your first time watching this live stream, you guys know how this goes. We have this show in order to bring together the comic book community to talk about news and current events. And I typically have a guest or two on that will help me to make sense of something that is happening out there in the world of comics. And this show is just like every other in that I'm going to have a couple of guests on that are going to help me to sort out a few things. But in a moment, we're actually going to go to the chat to see what folks may have picked up over the course of this day. Again, this being New Comic Book Day. So if you are in the live stream and you want to shout out your LCS as well as books that you picked up, we are going to come to the chat here momentarily. Before we get going, the theme of this show is people don't read comics anymore. That is a mantra, a theme, a whatever you want to call it. That's something that I've heard out there. I've heard people repeat it. I've read it in the comment section, and that's part of what we're going to be talking about over the course of this show. So as a reminder also, if you are interested in podcasts, you can actually take some Regie on the go by searching for Regie Collects on your favorite podcasting platform. More than likely, you can find about 100 episodes of this show available to you to listen to, and this one will be rebroadcast on this coming Monday. We release them every single Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. A couple of other things I want to get to. I want to give a shout out to Gator Guard. Shout out to my friends over at Gator Guard. They sent me a package. They reached out to me and they were like, hey, we need your address again. I said, no worries. Here you go. I sent the address, didn't ask any questions. They didn't tell me what was coming. I knew that it would be dope no matter what. It showed up, I think yesterday. I picked it up from the post office today. And it appears that my friends at Gator Guard are continuing to up the ante. This is one of their display cases, a UV display case for your comics, for your raw comics. That's what the Gator Guard looks like. This one might look like the old Gator Guard that I've shown you in the past, but this one is actually for annual size comics. This is a thick case. It's a thick one. It is. This is the regular one. They actually sent me a little note right there. This is the regular one right here, and then the annual right here. I don't know if you'll be able to pick up the thickness from that. Yeah, maybe you can get it. Maybe you can get it, but definitely a really cool product. What's really cool about these things is that you can actually use different color screws. They actually have different color screws that you can put in the four corners to complement the comic. Shout out to Gator Guard for hooking me up. I will more than likely pass these back to the comic book community in some way, shape, or form. So definitely stay tuned for that. But an awesome, awesome product. Shout out to them for always hooking me up with some good stuff that I get to pass back to folks out there in the community. So wanted to make sure I gave them a shout out. Also want to shout out this guy right here, Gabriel. Gabriel reached out to me maybe 2 weeks ago. He is a very talented artist, and he hipped me to his comic that was dropping on Scout, and it is called Distorted. And this comic, honestly, is a little bit of a breath of fresh air. It is different. It is different from, at least my feeling, is that it's different from other things that are out there. It is about superheroes, which, you know, that's kind of a jam, but there's no spandex. At least there does not appear to be any spandex just yet. So the story is a little different. And I will tell you, Gabriel's color palette is also very different from anything that I've seen out there. It is striking. He gave me an opportunity to check out a digital copy of Distorted issue number 1, and I thought it was incredible. I really did think that it was wonderful. Shout out to Gabriel for hooking me up. This thing is out there. I do believe it came out maybe last week. I think last week, Distorted issue number 1 from Scout Comics. If you guys are interested in checking out something that's a little different, something that's an indie thing that does not feel like the norm, Distorted might just be for you. And there's a wonderful description here You can see here down at the prices, it is not a crazy price thing. $3.99 for the regular cover, digital copy, $2.99. Shout out Scout Comics. So I wanted to make sure that I covered off on that because, again, he did not have to reach out to me, but I'm very glad that he actually did. So let me go to the chat real quick to see who is all up in here as we get ready to transition to our first guest. I see Matt Woods is in here. How you doing, brother? It is good to see you. My man Squirrel Madness is in here. Always a pleasure to see my Canadian brother. Steve White is in here. How you doing, brother? Scrolling through the names. And again, if you are in here, you hit up your LCS, you picked up some books, make sure that you drop that list up in here. And if you want to shout out your LCS, we can do that as well. I doubt that I've been to the LCS on the calendar year 2020, says Matt Woods. Scrolling through, Jim, how you doing, brother? It is good to see you. My other Canadian brother, Mark, is in here. It's good to see you, my friend. Scrolling through, I'm way behind on the comments. Let me try to catch up here real quick. Looking for a list of things here. L. Smith. L. Smith normally has a massive list of comics that he rattles off, but he is driving and probably challenged with typing that massive list as he is driving down the street. Scrolling through the rest of the comments here. Doug, thank you for that, brother. Thank you for this. So this was one of the other things that I wanted to remind you guys of. We kicked off the Black Adam bracket game earlier today. I believe that it went live at 8:27 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Discord server. Dave Bratton came up with this wonderful idea to do this bracketing system where we essentially vote on the best Black Adam covers that are out there. This will be something that will go over the course of 4 weeks. You can get anywhere from 1 to 4 entries into the giveaway. We're going to announce one winner at the very end who will walk away with something. I don't know what it's going to be. I'm guessing it's going to be dope. It'll come from Dave's personal collection. So shout out to him for coming up with the idea and also putting the prize on the table. And as I mentioned to Patreon earlier this week, if you are a Patreon member and you are in Canada, feel free to participate. We will cover. I will add to Dave's postage and handling to ensure that if you are indeed the winner, your package can be delivered to you up in Canada. Scrolling through the rest of the comments here, a couple of people talking about they got in on the action. I think Tina's in on it. Scrolling. Let me see. 4 issues of Wild Cards and Mouse books. That's what's up. I think Wild Cards hit the Key Collector app again earlier today. I want to say that hit the app again today in a good way. So shout out to Key Collector app for keeping its finger on the pulse of what is happening out there. And if you guys have not checked out our most recent Blue Ocean spec video, I definitely encourage you to check that out. It was released yesterday. Steve White says he picked up 16 books and spent around $90 and only picked up 2 variants. Wow, that's a diverse set of books that you picked up there, my friend. Scrolling through the rest of the comments here. I am way behind. Nate, how you doing? Nate, you're going to have to drop one of those G's. Just one, Nate, but welcome to you. William, how you doing, brother? It is good to see you. I think I saw Vox in here as well. It's good to see you. To that point, Vox picked up Nice House on the Lake issue number 7. Shop got a few not damaged books from the distributor. Nogterra, Silver Coin, and Echo Lens. That's what's up. Good stuff right there, brother. It is good to see you, and thank you again for putting me in touch with Julian Chambliss, who was on the show to talk about the importance of diversity. I think that was last week. I deal in dog ears, but I think that was last week that he was on, and we had a wonderful conversation. Raul, how you doing, brother? It is good to see you. Reptilian Overlord is always in the house. Scrolling through the comments again, way behind. Let me try to catch up here. What is that? Believe it or not, I didn't get to the LCS today. Okay, all good, brother. All good. I'm confident that you will be there before the week is out. Vinny, how you doing, brother? It is good to see you. All right. Picked up some oldies. You cannot go wrong, Ken. You cannot go. Ken's been on fire. Ken's been on fire on the Instagram with all the stuff that he's been posting up. Shout out to him. I think it was a wonderful couple of Spider-Man books that he's been posting as of late. If you are not following my man Ken on the Instagram, I encourage you to do that. Thomas is up in here. He says, shout out to Pulp's Comics, his LCS in Paris, France. Always keeps the comics in good order. That's what's up, Thomas. Shout out to you over there in France. Absolutely love that country. I spent a little bit of time there in downtown Paris and also in Avignon. Absolutely loved it. Scrolling through. All right. I think I'm all caught up. So with that, let's go ahead and transition to the topic at hand. And I know what's going to happen. Someone's going to comment that because I didn't show a bunch of posts that show that people said this, there's going to be some folks out there that don't believe me. But trust me when I tell you, I read a lot of comments. And one of the comments that I've essentially been seeing consistently over the last few weeks and months is this notion that people do not read comics. And essentially what folks are saying is that people are only buying comics for the purpose of speculation. They're only buying comics for the purpose of investment. They are not buying comics for the pure entertainment value that comes with the medium, right? They're buying them simply for the cover art. And so what I wanted to do was I wanted to have a guest or two on to spend a little bit of time talking with me about, whether they've heard this and then also what their perceptions of this are, whether they've heard it or not. And so I want to welcome to the show a person that's been on the show a healthy bit, I think, Squirrel Madness, AKA Wayne. It is good to see you, brother.
Thank you for having me on, Reggie. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it is always my pleasure. How is the weather up there in Canada?
We actually got a cold weather alert starting tonight into tomorrow. So it's going to be like, well, you guys do Fahrenheit, right? So we're Celsius. It's going to be like minus 19 with the wind chill, which is like,
no, thank you.
I don't even know what it is for you guys, but it's cold. So
no, thank you. I'll pass. Yeah. But isn't it always mostly cold up there?
You know what? No, it can actually be pretty mild. It could be above 0 temperatures here in the winter. It's been a bad winter. It's been a bad winter for snow and for ice and for cold. So
in Canada, where they issue a winter alert, it must be cold. It's like extra cold. But
exactly.
I am glad that you were able to join me for a few minutes to talk about this topic. And I am curious. Again, I read a lot of comments, whether you're talking about the comments that are left on my videos or DMs that people send me. I've heard this consistently, and I'm curious whether this is something that you've heard as well, that people don't read comics.
I've seen comments to that effect, both in YouTube, people talking about it in other channels, and through Instagram posts that people put up. There's a lot of people who say, the comic world is being ruined by people who are in for speculation only. They're not there to enjoy the content that's being put out. Only what it is a commodity and what it can do for people, not bring to people as enjoyment. So yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah. And but so let's be clear. You read comics, right?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, right now I'm reading, not an actual comic, it's a graphic novel, but it's the Iron Fist epic collection. So
yeah, that's what they'll say. It's a graphic novel. Doesn't count.
But it's a reprint of a comic. It's still comics.
Or it's manga. It's manga. It doesn't count, right? It all counts. It's all in the same genre. But we're right there. We've already disproved this theory that people don't read comics, because now we have Wayne who actually reads comics, as do I. Yeah. So let's put that out there. Mm-hmm. But Wayne, what is your thought around that notion that people don't read comics? Do you think that there is some validity to the argument that people are making when they make that statement?
No, because it's a catch-all statement that says nobody reads comics. People just buy comics to make money off of comics, and that's not true. I mean, all you have to do is look at the fact that the people who are saying what they get at their LCS, I guarantee you, those people are not buying, issue 6 of Nice House on the Lake because they think it's going to be worth a ton of money. They're buying it because they love the book and they love the story that's being told. You look anywhere, you look at people's posts where they're just like, look at this great book. And they post it on Instagram, and they'll tell you what the story's about. They'll summarize. Like I know Ken, Expedition Comics, does that. He'll post a book up and say, this is the sort of the short summary. What an awesome book. It's fire. He read the book. He knows what the content is.
Yeah.
People read their comics.
Yeah. And so I think it's just one of those things where it's almost like low grade is better than no grade. It's a catchphrase that
Yeah.
people use to the
Yeah.
point where it's just, it doesn't really have meaning, and or it's just so much of a blanket statement that you cannot make these broad
Yeah.
overarching statements. Well, I mean, I guess I just did, but you get my point. Like, it's easy to disprove it,
Yeah.
because what you're basically saying is that everybody is in this for the money, and that's just not true.
No,
It's just not true.
it's a spectrum. I think there are people who are in it just solely for the money. There are people who are in it who are sort of 50-50. They'll read things they like. They'll read beat up copies of comics they like, even if they're keys. But then they'll also maybe speculate on buying better condition copies or graded copies to potentially turn around and resell for profit.
Yep.
And some of them do it simply because they want profit. Some of them do it like you would do, where you used to fund the hobby.
Yes.
And there's some people who just read comics. They don't care about resale value. They don't care about investment. They're happy to spend hours going through a dollar bins at a junk show just to find beat up copies, because they might like Archie and they just want to buy a bunch of Life with Archie, and they're just going to buy them and read them because that's what they love. And that's the great thing about the hobby. There's something for everybody, and everybody approaches it differently.
Yeah, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. So in my mind, I think there's like several different categories of people out there, right?
Yeah.
You have your reader, you have
Mhm.
your collector, you have your investor, you have your speculator, you
Mhm.
have the art buyer, the one that
Yeah.
just loves it for the art, and then you have, and in my mind, while I've identified those as individual groups or labels, the reality is that there's a healthy amount of overlap that exists between those different types of folks. And
Yes.
I'm curious, from your perspective, like, what label would Wayne put on himself, right? If I were to be like, Wayne, what are you? What label would you apply to yourself?
I'm I'm a kind of a bit of everything. I read comics. I love comics. I mean, I wouldn't do this for money, but I buy comics to resell comics. And it's part of the fun I have in the hobby is looking for a good deal and knowing that deal could earn me some money that I could turn around and then put back into something else that matters to me. And if it gains me even extra money, then that extra money can maybe go towards other aspects of my life.
Yep.
So it's part of the fun for me. Like, I mean, I you see so many people out there who hate on people who do this. They call them dirty flippers. And I don't think there's such a thing. I think I think,
Hold on,
well,
hold
maybe you
on, hold on.
disagree.
I've never heard that. I was
You've
not ready
never
for
heard of
that.
dirty flippers?
No, I was not ready for that.
Oh yeah, yeah. You might see comments in the chat, but yeah, if you go on Instagram, there's people out there who hate people who buy books to sell them. They're called dirty flippers. That's what a lot of comic retailers will hate, people who come in to their stores and look for keys and try to get a good deal. And they'll be angry when they come up to the cash with all these books they found in the bins, and they're going to make a healthy profit, and the owner of the bookstore didn't see them, and they're dirty flippers. You know what? That's the thing about the hobby. It's wonderful for everybody because everybody gets something out of it. And I think, like what you like, just don't be a jerk about it.
Yeah.
Like, approach the hobby how you want to approach the hobby and have fun in the way you want to have fun.
And I think you just kind of hit my next point, which was, how is it that you view people that have a different approach to this hobby than what you have, right? Like, you're a blend of everything, which I think is
Yeah.
cool. But like, if you met a person that was only buying comics for the art, like, what would your impression of that person be?
I'd be perfectly happy and fine with that, because you know what? Enjoying the art, even if they buy just a book, not because they want to read it, but because they enjoy the cover. The cover evokes something in them. How is it any different than going and buying an actual piece of art that's in a frame? If it brings you joy and it brings out a feeling in you, of positivity, and you go and you find out, I love this artist, I'm going to look for more stuff. You're supporting that person's work. You're supporting the industry. You're supporting something you enjoy. Where's the problem?
Yeah. And I feel the same way, you know. Do I think that potentially those people that are just buying the cover art, for example, are they missing out on something? Potentially. Potentially they're missing out on something because they're not reading the comic, but I don't necessarily think that I'm in a position to say that they're doing it wrong. They're
Right.
doing what makes them happy. Who am I to say that what makes them happy is wrong simply because it's different from me?
Yeah.
You know, and that's kind of how I operate, you know. And to your point, and I'll let you comment here in a second, but to your point, I personally feel like the industry needs all types of people,
Mhm.
right? That come to this for lots of different reasons, you know. Now, if you take any of this stuff to the extreme, I think it could be bad, right? Like if you have people that are like manipulating the market or doing some nefarious stuff, that's where I have an issue. But if you want to buy for cover art, if you want to buy to flip, if you want to buy to reinvest that money back into the hobby, I see no problem with that.
Yeah.
But let me pause to hear what your thoughts might be on what I just said there in the last little bit.
I I think everyone should be able to enjoy the hobby however they feel like they can enjoy it. I think people who potentially are, I guess, I don't know if you want to call them like purists, people who believe that comic books are to be read, not to be graded, they're supposed to be enjoyed and not be a commodity, you know, in the sense that they're being put back out for sale for profit. You know what? Then buy comics the way you want to buy comics. Don't put your hangups and feelings and perceptions on other people. There are people out there who, as long as, like you say, they're not manipulating the market. I think those people can be identified pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Like what they're doing can be identified and shared in the community, and people will know who these people are and know to avoid them.
Yep.
You know, and there are people who in the community who don't read their books. They it's a business for them. It truly is. And I get it. I know certain people like that, and I have no problems with that. I mean, I think that's fine for them, as long as they're not affecting my ability to do what I want to do and have fun.
Yeah.
Whatever.
And again, you know, how is that different from an LCS? How is like a dealer that
It
deals
isn't.
books
It
different from an
isn't.
LCS?
Well, I'll be honest. There was a guy I ended up blocking on Instagram who kept going on about dirty flippers,
Mhm.
and he kept like being very negative on Instagram and picking fights with people around people buying and speculating on comics. But he admitted to previously being a LCS owner who retired from having a store, and now he's all against it. It's like, well, how is it different than what you did as a business? You bought people's collections and then you turned it around for profit. Just because I don't have a bricks and mortar store doesn't make me any different than you.
And that's what I'm saying. It's not different. I mean, it's all about, you know, again, the difference between what that person did and how someone else chooses to do it, and
Yeah,
they view that as being wrong. And
yeah,
I don't know that that's right. I don't know if that's appropriate, but you see a lot of that. And at the end of the day, again, as long as people are not being hurt
mhm,
and people are contributing
yeah,
to the publishers that are out there and the
yeah,
industry that supports us. If this person buys multiple books and that person buys multiple books, then that means that my books are still going to get produced and I still get to enjoy these comics.
yeah,
You know, like I just spent the last several days catching up on ASM, and you guys know how I felt about Nick Spencer. Oh, my sweet Christmas. You guys know I started reading issue number 75. I'm on issue 88 Bay. 88 Bay, and it's the Beyond Corporation. I am enjoying it. It's actually pretty well done. And I can't remember who
mm,
the writer is, but I'm actually enjoying it. I read a bunch of Miles
yeah,
Morales, issue 30 to 34. I'm in the middle of reading Ghost Rider issue number 1. Like I read comics, but I
yeah,
also sell comics, and
yeah,
I send comics off to CGC, and I turn around and do videos about them, and then I sell them, and then I buy. So it's like it's one of these things that
yeah.
I think people have to take a moment and ask themselves, is what this other person doing really wrong, or is it just different from me? Go ahead.
I think any kind of aspect of the thing where you're buying, you're selling, whether you support your local LCS, you're working and buying and selling or trading between collectors. I think in all, most of the time, it keeps the hobby healthy.
Yes.
It keeps books flowing. It exposes people to new titles, new artists, new members of the community, and that exposes them to other members of the community, and they get a big well of friends that they have. And it just keeps, I think, hopefully, as long as you have the right mindset, that everyone's happy. They're part of a bigger community. You know, the money flows, the books flow, and the you know, because if people just want, no, I'm not going to do that anymore, and everyone stopped flipping and selling, at the end of the day, I think the hobby would sink. You need it. It's an aspect of it. You need it to be healthy.
And it probably would not be as much fun. You know, I
Exactly.
talked to a guy today. He was like, "Hey, thank you for this video on how to ship comics because I literally just sold my first book." And he's like, "I'm nervous because now I have to figure out how to ship it." This guy just had a wonderful experience where he had a book that he didn't necessarily want. He's figured out how to sell it. He's excited about that. And more than likely, that money's going to go back to buy another comic, and it'll probably be one that he truly treasures. So there's a lot of benefit to this. I'm curious from your perspective, Wayne, whether you think part of this people don't read comic stuff is people trying to draw that historical connection between what's happening now to what happened in the 90s, because people always try to draw that parallel. It's the 90s. It's going to crash. Speculators, people don't read the book. Let me pause. Do you think that that's potentially part of what they're saying when they make this statement that people don't read comics?
Some people, yes, because I see that comparison being made a lot. People worrying that the market's going to bottom out, and we're going to get to the point where publishers might be bankrupting and going bankrupt, and titles will end. And I don't think that's personally, I don't think it's going to happen. But I think, people are trying to draw that comparison. I think they're worried for the hobby, and I don't think it's done in a malicious way. I think it's done because they love the hobby and they don't want to see a repeat of what happened.
Yeah.
So they're kind of maybe putting out the warnings early just to sort of stave off the potential of something happening. But
and I think what you just said there is helpful, that it's not a nefarious thing that they're doing, because I think I was kind of painting it in that light. You're painting it in a slightly different light, and I definitely appreciate that. It's more of a cautionary note that they want to put out there because they actually care about the hobby. And I think that that's maybe a better way for me to look at it. You know, there are very big differences between now and the 90s.
Yeah,
very big differences. But I cut you off because I think you were about to make a point there.
No, I was just going to say, just adding on to what you were saying, you know, this isn't, millions of copies of X-Men 1 and millions of copies of Spawn 1. That's not happening right now. Like, I think it's a very different situation. I think we got a lot of great publishers printing healthy amounts of books. And I think no matter what happens, I mean, there's always been ups and downs in the comic industry. Like, if you think about the late 70s with DC and how many titles that they canceled when they had to sort of rejig how DC was operating, they canceled, I forget what percentage of their titles that had to, as they rejigged to sort of adjust to a floundering market. It happens before, it happened in the 90s, it may happen again, but you know what? Comics will come back.
It just kind of sort of happened recently where they cut things back. I mean, DC did it. I'm sorry, Marvel did it at the end of the year before last, I do believe. They were over 100 titles a month, and I think they cut it back. It's part of the process. There's a wonderful comment here I want to post up real quick from Mark. He says here, the thing that gets me is when a dirty flipper, I added that, when a dirty flipper says they are a collector but has no PC of comics. So if they are a business person, great, they benefit the hobby and move books for us to buy. I think that's a valid point, right? Don't call yourself something that you're not, right? Identify yourself as what you are, because transparency is important. I think that's a legitimate point. And anybody who wants to check my inventory can check mine, because it's robust. It really is.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, if you're not trying to manipulate the prices or jack up the prices or trying to
cheat
scam
people,
the community,
there you go.
You're just providing, product that people want at a fair market value or better. You know what? You're helping.
There you go. Well said, brother. So how many holes do you have in this punch card here thing that you're looking at?
I actually haven't punched any yet, but I think I'm up to 4 now. This is 4.
So show this for people that haven't seen this. Master Blaster came up with this wonderful thing that people, whenever they appear on the show, they get one of these punch cards and they have the ability to check off how many times that they show up. But I want to thank you, brother, for joining me. Make
My
your point,
pleasure.
and then I'm going to ask you my normal closeout question.
Oh no, that was my point. I had no points.
Oh, okay.
I'm
All
good.
right. So I definitely appreciate you coming on and sharing your perspective with me. You know, you're one of the guys that I talk to a fair bit behind the scenes, and it's like at the same time I didn't quite know what you were going to say, but it's enjoyable to hear another member of the comic book community's perspective on this, to see whether you're hearing what I'm hearing, and then just to get your impression of it. So I want to thank you for that. But
Okay.
should people want to hear more from you and or connect with you, where can they find you on the social media?
I'm on YouTube at Squirrel Madness Comics, and I am on Instagram at Squirrel Madness _comics. If you want to reach me, it's probably easiest just to DM me there.
And I'll try to put a link in the description for people to be able to find you, Wayne.
Great.
It's an absolute pleasure, brother. Try to stay warm
Thank
up
you.
there.
I will. I'm wearing a warm top. I'm good. Thanks, Reggie. I appreciate it as
It's
always.
good to see you, Wayne. Thank you.
You too.
And I did not cut him off. Did you see that, people? Where's Chris Bigger? Where is Chris Bigger? I need my flowers right now, Chris Bigger. I did not cut him off. I thought that I did pretty good. Hey, Ricardo, real quick, bro, real talk. I literally had just rolled over. I do believe when I answered your question, I had literally just rolled over. I had not even gotten out of bed and started to reply to your question. That's how dedicated I am to this hobby. I respond to your questions at 6 a.m. in the morning. That's just how we roll. Okay. I am not touching that. I am not touching that one in any way, shape, or form. Thank you. Thank you, Chris Bigger, for giving me my kudos. I absolutely appreciate it. All right. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to have another guest on. I wanted to have another guest on to continue this topic of in my head, I have this song of and if somebody can find this, people don't dance anymore. I can't remember the name of the song, but the chorus is like, people don't dance anymore, all they do is this. That's been stuck in my head for several days as I've thought about this topic of people not reading comics, and so I'm smiling to myself. But I wanted to invite another guest on to spend some time talking with me about this subject of people don't read comics, but I wanted to bring a slightly different perspective, right? We just heard from Wayne up in Canada, but I wanted to invite a guy that I've been getting to know over the last little bit here, a guy that is actually from the industry. He is from the industry, and his name is Crow. Crow, welcome to the show.
What's up? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes.
Love it.
That is
Yeah,
magic, sir. So how are you doing out there?
You know, living life. Glad for those of you who don't know, I left Reggie an alert the other day, so I'm grateful he gave me another chance to make it up to him. So I'm happy to be here.
Crow, you did not have to own it, brother. You did not have to own it.
You got to be accountable. You got to own it. You got to own it.
Did you see me on the fly? I was like, ooh, if I say this next thing, then I will identify the party, and I don't want to do that. So I was like, let me steer it to a different topic.
It was amazing. So you were like Tom Cruise in Minority Report. You're like I'm gonna move things around. I'm gonna readjust here, enhance. I'm not, and you were like, in your head I could just see a Crow. How dare you?
Yeah. I was dancing. Now I'm sweating because I don't think I turned the heat off. So, but Crow, I want to thank you for coming on the show. For the sake of transparency, the industry, if you will, the company that you work for is Shortbox. Yes,
That's right, Shortboxed.
And you've been with Shortbox for how long?
Well, I've been working with them full time for about 6 months. However, I was there with Gene and BJ, who are the co-founders at the beginning. And at the beginning, Shortbox was just a blog, and we started it so we could get free passes to Comic-Con. And back then, in like 2012, 2013, when we started the blog, if you had a blog and you sent like a post to people who work in, they're like, "Oh, press pass, you get in for free." And I was like, "Well, I can write a blog post. BJ can set up a website. Gene knows about comics." I was like, "We can get into these things for free," and we did. But then I disappeared for a while, and they built the company.
So check this out, brother. I have met Gene and BJ a lot. Like, I know these guys, right? They never told me the origin story, that it was a scam. It's a scam to get free stuff.
Hard scam. And they don't want you to know. They're going to get mad. They're watching right now, and they're sending me signals. because they want to be trustworthy. And I'm like, nah, we scammed our way into Comic-Con.
They are never going to allow you on a live show again. I'm gonna just tell you
I've
that
got
right
a gun
now.
pointed at me right now. Where did you get that, Gene? Put that gun away.
I will tell you, early in my YouTube career, I realized the same thing, that if you were a YouTuber, you could get into stuff for free. I realized that, and I used it to my advantage. I made it into several places as a result of that. So I appreciate what you did. But you guys basically have a platform, an app, wonderful app for buying and selling graded comics. And some could assume that you are not necessarily something that a person, a company that appreciates comics. You read comics, right?
I read comics. That's right. We all read comics.
Because I do believe that you guys even post up on your Instagram feed the people that work for Shortbox with some of their personal collection to like demonstrate that you guys are part of the comic book community. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's important to note. Like we were all member. The reason that the platform came to exist is because we were collectors, especially Gene and BJ, and then everybody who joined. There's when we hire people, we talk about, do you know comics? Are you going to be able to represent us authentically in the community? Because we were community members first. The app came from the community, not the app goes to the community. You know, we built it because we saw the issues in the industry that's largely, you know, built on some crumbling ruins of some like old societal infrastructure, I guess you could say. We wanted to make sure everybody had a good app to use, as opposed to having to, you know, visit something that was hard. And maybe people don't have access to a Comic-Con, or they can't get to an LCS, that kind of thing.
And tell me why is it that during the interview process, if you will, you guys are asking whether people know comics? Why is that important for Shortbox?
Well, it's a well, in the tech industry, we all. A lot of us come from the tech industry. There's a thing called culture fit, and culture fit is, you know, are you going to be able to be here? Are you going to understand why things are important to people? Are we going to be able to hang out and talk with you in the office? Like, that's important. But the most important thing is we need everybody at the company to care and understand the challenges that the comic book collector and comic book reader go through. Because if somebody, like, for example, I just started collecting slabs because I started working here. You can't get away from it. And I got a cracked slab the other day that I ordered, and if I had not been like a comic book person, I'm like, oh, that's kind of a bummer. But we know that is a breach of trust. Like, oh, that person didn't pack that right. All of a sudden, there's all these other concerns. And as a company, not only do we have to recognize what that problem is, but we have to recognize how we can rectify it and make things better for a user.
There we go. So you are somebody that reads comics. You just recently started buying slabs because Gene and BJ made you.
They make me do it. Yeah.
I'm guessing that you were buying raw comics before that. And I'm curious, what are you reading right now? What is on the top of Crow's stack when it comes to comics that you're reading? It doesn't have to be new. I'm just curious what you're reading.
Lots of stuff. So I just started reading Paper Girls. I just knocked out all the extant trades of Something's Killing the Children. I'm going back and rereading some of my favorites from childhood, because I did stop reading for a little bit. There was I think a lot of collectors go through, or maybe not, but as an adult you kind of lose. So I went back and read all my old favorites. I actually found my first comics that I ever bought the other day was Batman vs. Predator, which came out in 1992. I bought the three books. I found it in my house. My mom never threw anything away, thank goodness. She's a saint. What else am I reading? I'm reading a lot of stuff. I just read Radiant Red. The first one I just read, Little Monsters #1 from Jeff Lemire, who we just did an interview with, which was really great. I just knocked out Luther Strode. I read Black Hammer, another Jeff Lemire title that I absolutely love. It's not quite a superhero deconstruction, but it kind of is, and I'm pretty into that. My favorite superhero is Superman, so I'm either like a jar of vanilla ice cream that you see, but I also like seeing things that kind of take the concept of superheroes to task from a historical and artistic standpoint. Deconstruction stuff is some of my favorite. Astro City, and then of course Black Hammer is one of those as well.
I've never read that. I've never read Astro City, but what I just heard you do there in the last like 20 seconds is dispel this notion that people don't read comics, right? So now if you are watching this, you will not be able to make that statement that people don't read comics anymore, because people read comics. They care about comics. Yes, we make money off of comics. Yes, we work in an industry or work for a company that sells comics, but we also read them. We also enjoy them and love them. There is more to it than this broad brush. People don't read comics anymore. Again, I've got that song stuck in my head. I don't know.
That's good. It's a Goody Mob.
Is that who that is? Oh man, thank you, brother.
Yeah, that's
Thank you,
right.
brother. I'm gonna have to go listen to that now. Some of that
Some
Red Dirt.
golden age of hip hop. Yeah.
Man, you're talking dirty now. Come on.
Sorry.
So I want to transition and I want to talk briefly about something that you guys recently announced. And I want to pull
Sure.
this up on screen real quick so I can make sure that I get it right. You guys recently rolled out or are rolling out, correct me if I'm wrong, some new features for Shortbox. And I go way back with this app, right? So in the
Mhm.
spirit of transparency, I do some work with Shortbox. But I'm also a user of Shortbox and also did the beta testing, I guess maybe a couple of years ago or something like that. But you guys recently rolled out some new features. Can you talk a little bit about, these features? And specifically, were these always something that was on the development map for you guys, or were these things that have been added by user slash community request?
It's a little bit of both. I would say that we do a lot of listening to our users. Again, we're part of the community, and so we can either give you things that people don't really need, or we can sit and be like, okay, well, sellers want vacation mode so that they don't have to rush home or have somebody else ship their books. People don't want to pay a processing fee because why? Of course, nobody wants to pay extra fees. Maybe we can take care of that. And then some things, and this is true with all technological development, some people need things that they don't know that they need. For example,
Mm,
you wouldn't necessarily be like, better search. Of course, you need better search. It was working fine as is. People were able to find things, but we made it better by making the filtering system better, removing certain technological barriers to like when you've got a hyphen between X and X-Man, X-Men. Sometimes that didn't work correctly just because Boolean search functions are pretty strange in tech. So sometimes we give people things that they don't know they need, and then of course we listen to things that people want, and then we try to deliver the best version of that. So the short answer is some have always been on the roadmap. Some things we learn as time goes on, because there's only three. I mean, well, we just hired an engineer. We only have a limited amount of engineers, right? We're not a big company. There are more users and more brains out there thinking about what they need than we have here. So there's no way in heck, unless we have, you know, uh, the brainiacs of the world all in one room, which again, BJ's like, we do have that. That's me. But we have to listen because we might not catch things.
right. And I mean, honestly, that's how I create videos. A lot more people watch my videos than me, and they give me
Yeah.
ideas, and then I go create the videos. I am curious, of these new features, which do you think that your user base is most excited about? If you had to pick one, which would the one be?
Okay, so our user base is split into two different types of people. This is a little more complicated than you presented. We have sellers, people who go on and sell their comics, and then we have the buyers, of course. So I think the thing that will affect everybody the best is that the more sellers we have on the platform, the more books that people have been able to choose from. So I'm going to go with the seller feature. Now, this
Mm,
might not be super apparent to people that just buy, but trust me, if the sellers are having easier ways of putting books up, you'll have more choices and better prices and more competition. You can buy competitively. So I think the new seller portal is something we developed, and all sellers will have seen this by now. This is fully rolled out. We've made things much easier for people. We've also added like direct deposit as a payment, which people have been asking for, and we knocked out the PayPal fee. The PayPal used to charge 2.9% to do business, and then companies will pass that price on to the customers. We're actually absorbing that entire fee ourselves and just making that part of the fees that we take care of. So we're
oh,
making it more attractive for sellers to come onto the platform, easier to list books, and that it's more product on the platform for everybody else to check out.
there you
Now,
go.
that's not the
When
sexiest answer, but I think that's
No,
the
no, but
most
it
answer.
was an appropriate answer because you said a lot there, and I think it was all wonderful stuff. It seems like one of the features is the ability to list books faster than they
Hmm.
were able to be listed before. Um, Gene came on the show,
Hmm.
and previously during the live stream, he actually demonstrated how quickly a book could be listed. How much faster can you make it than like less than a minute? Like, what have you guys really done to make it that much faster?
Yeah, so there used to be a four-step process. One thing that we don't have to do now is we developed a piece of technology. We don't have that scan a barcode anymore. If you take a picture of the book, we developed I honestly, this is starting to get above my head in terms of the tech. I'm a marketing guy, so I don't. There's an electronic spider that comes
I'm a
out of the
marketing
app.
guy too. I'm a marketing guy too. It sounds wonderful. Keep going.
So we found a way that the technology can recognize all of the data from the original picture that you take to list the book, instead of having to also scan a barcode and get a bunch of stuff. So that will make this one step less. So it went from being like 45 seconds to list a book to 40 seconds. Now, this doesn't seem like a big deal, but depending on who you are, if you're listing 100 books at a time, the amount of time saved and the amount of steps first, the more things you have to do, the more likely it is that something will go wrong. So we're just trying to reduce as much friction as possible.
I dig it. I dig it. And one of the other things I noticed on that, I think it was the bottom of the list, was vacation mode. What
Yeah.
exactly is vacation mode? And I'm asking because I'm about to go on vacation. So I want to know, what is this mode that I can enable when I am away?
Vacation mode allows you to temporarily suspend all the comics that you have for sale on your short box store and your seller store.
So they
So
basically disappear while you're away. Is that what I'm hearing?
people can't access them.
Okay, there we go.
You cannot
That's helpful.
access them.
Yeah, I wasn't
So
sure if it was something where they could still see them and buy them, but then they were notified that you were on vacation. It's more about making your store, your inventory inaccessible for that period of time that you're away. Yes?
that's right. That's right. So Gene can correct me if I'm wrong here. I think that's the way. I'm 99% sure that's how it works. But it was a problem for folks that wanted to go on vacation, but their collections of books that they're selling, their inventories at their house, and they're like, well, I don't want to, and I don't want to go away and then have somebody sell a book and then I can't ship it. And then all of a sudden, that's bad for the platform. So we're
Yep.
doing it for not only the sellers and buyers, but also for us, because we would have to go in and do a lot of manual work and be like, hey, this seller is in Bermuda, and we don't know if he's going to get out because the Bermuda Triangle's down there. So we'd have to do a lot of personal manual explaining. Bermuda Triangle's real, everybody.
I thought you were talking about because of COVID. I didn't know you were talking.
I don't know what COVID is, but the Bermuda Triangle is real.
So I
I'm
think
kidding. I'm
Gene's in the chat here, and he's doing some market research, right? He's using free market research. I respect it, brother. Whenever I talk about Shortbox, this is one of the questions that come up from people, especially my Canadians, right? They are like, when are we getting this app up here in Canada? I'm not going to put you guys on the spot here, but I will point all of my Canadians to look at this comment that is coming in from Shortbox and provide him with the insight that he needs, because my guess is there's a reason. My guess is that there's a reason for it. I have two more questions for you. You guys have some crazy stuff going on in Discord. I think it was Chris Bigger that hit me to the fact that you guys had an emoji of my face. I had never really seen an emoji of my face. So I pop in there at like 6:30 in the morning. I'm having coffee. I'm like, yeah, that's my face as an emoji. Shout out to you guys. That was really cool. But do you want to give people a feel for what is actually in your Discord server and why people should join?
Okay, yeah. So Discord is great. We have almost every Shortbox employee is on the Discord server all the time. Now, I'm not saying this so you can come on and actually, yes, I am. Let me go ahead and say this. You can come on and ask us questions. You can ask for help. We'll help. We've got Nat, who's our moderator. She's on. She'll answer questions when she's on. We have a bunch of we have Lex, who's another moderator who's there. I'm almost always on. It's connected to my phone. Gene sits in there. BJ sits in there. We do it not only to offer a channel for help and sort of support and announcing features and everything like that happens, but it is a community thing. We are so, this is a weird, I'm probably not supposed to talk about things that we're afraid of because we're supposed to be like a big, strong company or whatever, but we are so afraid of not being part of the community. Like we're like, okay, when some companies become big, and they turn into entities instead of people, right? Yep. For a long time, Shortbox and Gene and BJ will probably back me up on this. For a lot of people, Shortbox is Gene and BJ, but now we've got some more people, which is why we try to have avenues to get to know all of us. We do, get to know our staff members we do little features on our staff members. We do staff picks. We try to get faces up there. We want to talk to everybody. We enjoy talking about comics. In addition to just like hanging out with other people like-minded, we do like giveaways of cool stuff where we're going to start having movie nights once we get the technology figured out.
That's cool.
We have you come on. We're going to start getting creators to come in and do Q&As. We had David Booher, who's the writer of Canto, and we were talking to him about doing a Q&A, and he seemed interested in that. But we just talked with Jeff Lemire, so hopefully we can get more people to come in, and you can get stuff that you can't find anywhere else. Stuff that what we want it to feel like is like the cool community center in your neighborhood that you can come to, and there's little events. There's a little Comic-Con there. There's a book reading of something. We want it to feel as in person as possible, but we want everybody to be able to join. So we're trying to have our cake and eat it too, and we think Discord's the best way.
There we go, man. I give a lot of advice to companies that are attempting to come into the comic book market, and I'm like, you need to make yourself part of the community. If you're seen as an outsider, you're going to be treated as an outsider. If you want to be part of this community, you have to immerse yourself in it. Like, Ross Regie from Boom Studios, great example. This guy was everywhere. He was always hanging out in the chat on Instagram, doing that. You have to make yourself part of this community if you want to understand it. And if you want to benefit from it, you have to be part of it. It's important. But Crow, as I let you go here, brother, where can people get a hold of you on the social media? Feel free to shout out, whatever Discord or Instagram profiles you want to share.
Yeah, I mean, you can find me on Discord. I'm there all the time. I'm the main admin there. Discord.gg/shortbox. Pretty easy. You can find me on. I'm the head of marketing, so I'm in charge of all of the social media channels. So if you're talking to Shortboxed, unless somebody specifically says otherwise, you're probably talking to me. And if you want to find me and you want to see what I get up to in my personal life, I mean, I'm just posting comic books and pictures of travel. You can find me on every platform at Dr. Crow, DoctorCrowe.
That's like, wow, just name yourself a doctor. I respect it. I respect it. I respect just
look, who's gonna call me a liar? Like, I got Dr. Doom here. I got doctors everywhere.
Crow, I want to thank you, brother, for coming on. You are as much fun talking to live as you are in like the DMs and when we have our little email exchanges. So I want to thank you for showing up. I want to thank you for entertaining us and also giving us a little bit of insight into what is happening at Shortbox. Again, one of my favorite apps. So I definitely appreciate everything that you guys are doing over there.
Well, I mean, the honor is really all mine, and thanks again for not holding me to task for leaving you on the side of the road without AAA.
I'll talk to you soon, brother. And I did not cut him off, Chris Bigger. Did you see that? Did you see that? I paused. He got the salute off and everything. All right. So there were several other things that I was going to talk about. I'm gonna very briefly rattle these things off for you guys, just so you guys can, so I don't waste the research that was done. One of the young guys from Stranger Things, Finn Wolfhard has joined the MCU. This actually came out on giantfreakingrobot.com, I think earlier today. What I will tell you is that this kid has grown up, because I still remember him as this kid. Where is it? Down here. He is no longer that kid. He is a 19-year-old adult actor. The long story short is we have no clue what role this guy is going to be playing in the cinematic universe. You can assume that it's going to be an important role, just given his history of acting in Stranger Things, which I think wraps up after season 5. So I wanted to make sure that I shared that with you guys, that we're potentially going to see some Stranger Things action going on in the MCU at some point. And it appears that my computer may have frozen up there for a hot second, which is very strange. That has never happened. The last thing that I will tell you guys about is the actor Joe that played Deathstroke in one of the previous Batman movies is actually going to be coming back. He actually put up this post on the Instagram and the Twitter with him with a mohawk and an eye patch on. And the only comment that was made with this, or the only description that was given, was new profile pic. So a lot of people are speculating that he is going to potentially make his return back as Deathstroke in some form or fashion. And it turns out he was actually supposed to be in the Batman movie with Ben Affleck, but that movie was retooled and it became The Batman, which I think is out right now at movie theaters. And then he was also trying to work to basically have a solo Deathstroke movie, and that also went nowhere. So he basically was like, I guess this is over and done with. Now we have this profile pic up on the Instagram and the Twitter with no real details as to what it actually means, but it could mean that Deathstroke is coming back. This was also up on Giant Freaking Robot. But what's really cool about this is my man Doug highlighted a book in the Blue Ocean spec video that was released yesterday that talks a little bit about Deathstroke. If you have not watched that video, I encourage you to check it out, because potentially there is some magic that is going to be made with Deathstroke in the near term. So I wanted to make sure that I shared that with you guys. All right, with that, we're going to wrap this thing up. And Ricardo, for the record, Ricardo, even though I am going to be on vacation, that does not mean that I will not be responding to people's comments. Potentially, they will just be delayed, but I always respond. So to that point, if you need to reach out to me for any reason, feel free to do so on Instagram at Regie Collects. Take care.